So, when you hear the name Les Miserables, you probably think of the musical, right? The soaring songs, the flags on the barricade, it's epic. But what if I told you that the musical, that's just the tip of the iceberg? That it's really the trailer for a 1,000-page-long takedown of society itself? Well, that's what we're gonna do. Let's dive into the massive ideas that Victor Hugo packed into his masterpiece.
Right from the very beginning, Hugo tells you exactly what this book is about. He is not messing around. This isn't just a story, he's basically putting society on trial. He's taking on the biggest issues of his day: poverty, starvation, the neglect of children. And he says, as long as these things exist, a book like this can never be useless. This one quote, it's the mission statement for the entire novel.
And yeah, for the next 1,000+ pages, he delivers exactly that. This is Exhibit A in his case against the world. So to make his case, Hugo drops us right into the middle of 19th century France. And let me tell you, it is a harsh, harsh world. This is not a place with simple good guys and bad guys. No, here the real villain is the system itself. And the first piece of evidence Hugo presents to the jury is a man named Jean Valjean. 19 years. Just let that number sink in for a second. 19 years of his life spent doing hard labor, chained up, treated like an animal. You gotta ask yourself, what on earth could a person possibly do to deserve that? That's it. He stole a loaf of bread because his sister's child was starving. Now, here's the interesting part. Hugo makes it clear that the punishment isn't technically unjust. I mean, the guy did break the law, but it is profoundly, insanely out of proportion. And a punishment that severe for a crime that small, well, that tells you everything you need to know about a society that pushes people to desperation and then crushes them for it. And even after those 19 years are up, it's still not over. He's handed this thing, a yellow passport. Think of it like a permanent brand. It screams, "I am an ex-convict," to everyone he meets. So he's free, but he can't get a room in an inn, he can't get a job, he's even chased out of a dog kennel. Society has branded him for life, making absolutely sure he can never, ever escape his past. So, as you can imagine, Valjean is filled with this deep, burning hatred for the world that's done this to him. He is right on the edge. But then, in his absolute darkest moment, something happens that he could never have expected. Something that's going to change everything. I mean, think about it. Literally, every single door is slammed in his face. The innkeepers, the jailer, even the dog. Door after door after door. But then he finds one that isn't locked, the bishop's door. This isn't just about a nice guy letting a stranger in for the night. This one open door is a radical act. It's a complete rejection of the way the entire rest of the world works. Valjean literally can't comprehend this kindness, so he does the only thing that makes sense to him. He steals the bishop's fancy silverware and bolts. Of course, the police catch him and drag him back. And this is it, right? The bishop can tell the truth and send Valjean back to prison for life. But he doesn't. Instead, he lies. He tells the cops, "Oh, that silver? I gave it to him." And then he gives Valjean his 2 silver candlesticks to complete the set. In that one moment, with that one incredible act of grace, he basically says, "Your soul no longer belongs to evil. I've bought it for God." Okay, so Valjean's soul has been saved. He's been given a second chance. But his fight is just getting started. Because now he has to figure out how to live in a world that is driven by a force that's the complete opposite of the bishop's mercy. And that force has a face. And that face belongs to Inspector Javert. For Javert, the law is everything. It's black and white. There are no second chances. If you're a convict, you are always a convict. He is the human embodiment of society's cold, hard judgment. So the whole rest of the book, really, is this epic battle between these two ideas. Valjean, who represents grace and the hope for change, and Javert, who represents a rigid, unforgiving law. So what happens when these two giant forces collide? Well, who gets caught in the middle? The people Hugo calls the miserable ones. And there is no better example of this than Fantine. She's a young woman, a single mother, just trying to provide for her little girl Cosette. But when people find out she has a child out of wedlock, she gets fired. And the terrible irony is, she gets fired from the factory owned by the new, reformed Jean Valjean. And her story is it's a brutal step-by-step spiral downwards. And it's a direct indictment of a society that allows it to happen. Each step is forced on her by desperation. First, she loses her job. Then she sells her beautiful hair. Then she sells her front teeth. And finally, her own body. The point Hugo is making is that she's not a bad person making bad choices. She's a good person being left with no choices by a merciless system. Now, Hugo wants to show us that these aren't just one-off tragedies. These are systemic problems. So every once in a while, he does something that kind of drives readers crazy. He hits pause on the whole story, sometimes for hundreds of pages. They're called his digressions. But trust me, they're not random. He'll literally stop the plot cold to give you an entire book's worth of analysis on the Battle of Waterloo just to explore how pure chance can change destiny. He'll take you on a tour through the filthy sewers of Paris to show you what society literally tries to bury and forget. He's not just going off on a tangent. What he's really doing is building his case, brick by brick. He's showing us the huge historical and social forces that are pulling the strings in his characters' lives. He also gives us these archetypes, these character types that stand for a bigger idea. Like the gamin, the little street urchin of Paris. This kid is two things at once. On the one hand, he's proof that society is failing its children. But on the other, he's the spark of life, the symbol of Paris's defiant, unstoppable spirit. He's the future that's being ignored, but he's also full of incredible potential. So, after building this absolutely monumental case against his own society, tragedy by tragedy, exhibit by exhibit, Hugo finally brings it all together. He's ready to deliver his final verdict. And inside that verdict is his vision for a much, much better world. The whole point of this massive book, the entire argument, can be boiled down to this one incredible moment when Valjean confesses his past. He says, the prison system, it made him a monster. It was severity that ruined him, and it was kindness that saved him. That's it. That's Hugo's argument in a nutshell. A cruel society creates its own criminals, but a compassionate one can redeem them. So this is the choice Hugo leaves us with. It's two completely opposite ways of seeing the world. You've got Javert's way, the way of the law. Your past defines you, change is impossible, and the only answer is punishment. Then you have Valjean's way, the way of grace. Anyone can be redeemed, your conscience is your guide, and the answer is forgiveness and progress. It's a fight for the soul of society itself. In the end, this enormous book is really just one long, passionate plea. Hugo is begging us to see that true justice isn't about punishment and rigid rules. True justice is about progress. It's about education. It's about empathy. It's about building a better tomorrow by lifting people up today. And here's the thing. It's been more than 150 years, and the problems Hugo is writing about, poverty, injustice, kids falling through the cracks, they're still here. And so his final question is just as urgent for us as it was back then. When we see injustice in the world, what do? Do we build more prisons, or do we build more bridges?